What would happen to planet Earth if we all weren't here? Well, I personally believe that number 1 is the most plausible outcome, so stay tuned for that. Here are 10 things that would happen if humans suddenly disappeared. With all that said and done, let's begin, shall we? Number 10. The world in total darkness. These days there's a lot of things that we take for granted. Electricity, for instance. All we care about is there's power coming out of the outlets in our homes. Most of the world will simply grind to a halt if electricity fails. Believe it or not, only a few people worldwide are directly responsible for keeping our homes, cities, and countries powered up. Someone has to be there 24/7, otherwise it just takes a matter of hours for everything to fall apart. Yes, if humans somehow vanish in an instant, the world's power plants will completely shut down, due to lack of people maintaining them. It would only take a few hours for this to happen. Lights will stop working, entire cities and countries plunged into total darkness, and then, the vampires take over. Number 9. Global nuclear meltdown. Much of the world's cities are powered by nuclear power plants. Although they are remarkably efficient in what they were built to do, there's always the risk of disaster that's permanently linked to them. I think I don't have to remind you of the Chernobyl and Fukushima disasters, just to give you an idea of how devastating these nuclear meltdowns can actually be. Right now, the only thing that's keeping these nuclear power plants from being nuclear bombs is the people working on them. These plants have massive cooling towers that require a lot of water to keep everything from overheating. Its water supply needs to be replenished regularly, so without humans to do all that, all the water from the cooling towers will evaporate, and will eventually lead to massive nuclear explosions worldwide. Number 8. Massive flooding. Have you ever wondered why underground tunnels and subway lines remain water-free, even though they were built below water? Well, that answer is one word: pumps. Yes, pumps keep these areas flood-free. If these pumps somehow stop working, let's say when the electricity gets cut, and no one is around to operate the pumps, underground tunnels will begin to fill with water. It actually wouldn't take long for this to happen. After the electricity is cut, many experts believe flooding may happen in just 3 days, and the floodwaters will eventually find their way to the streets, turning many well-known streets into temporary rivers. Flooding will also have one more unfortunate side effect. Without power, sewage would slowly back up and begin to flood, polluting the surrounding lakes and the rivers. The sewage would likely poison a number of animals who managed to survive thus far. Number 7. Shooting stars. Shooting stars are some of the most amazing and rare things that you can see in the night sky. In a world without humans, experts think that shooting stars would happen more commonly. But instead of being tiny meteorites burning up as it enters the Earth's atmosphere, they'll be made out of chunks of metal junk and old satellites that we sent out over the years. Experts agree that in about a year into the world's existence without humans, the night sky will begin to look very different as satellites begin to fall. Thousands of objects sent by man into orbit will slowly start to fall over the course of several years, appearing like shooting stars in the sky. Some of the further satellites could continue to orbit for decades before eventually falling back to Earth. Number 6. Mother Nature reclaims what is hers. Around 25 years after humans disappear from the face of the Earth, Mother Nature would have already claimed what's hers. Whatever nuclear fallout that's left from the nuclear plants that melted down would have already dropped to a safe level for living things, especially plants, to thrive. Without maintenance workers to regularly clean them out, the once paved streets and highways will soon be overrun with vegetation. The concrete itself won't survive this onslaught, as the roots would soon break them down into tiny pieces as they crumble to soil in time. Number 5. Steel structures start to crumble. Steel is such an amazing material. City skylines wouldn't be as magnificent as it is today without steel. Can you imagine a world without the Eiffel Tower? Or the Golden Gate Bridge? No. Well, neither can I, but the fact is, steel structures aren't going to last forever. Especially without regular maintenance. Steel does deteriorate, especially when left out in the elements without protection. Although admittedly, any structure made of steel can remain standing for a very long time, one thing is definite: it's not going to stand there forever. Experts believe that around 300 years after humans, structures made out of metal and steel would have degraded over time and would have simply crumbled to the ground. Number 4. The decline of domesticated animals. Only a few weeks after we disappear from the face of the earth, many of our domesticated animals and pets will succumb to starvation and dehydration. Very sad, I know. But these are just kind of the facts that we have here. Without having no one to attend to them, these animals that we raised for our leisure will perish because they would not have any means of sustaining or feeding themselves. The smart ones that may find a way out of our homes may survive a few days longer, but these domestic breeds of pets, especially the smaller ones, will end up being eaten by much larger predatory wildlife that may have already invaded places that humans used to occupy. Number 3. Wildlife takes over. Animal life will begin to return to the massive uninhabited cities. After all, it was theirs to begin with, we just forced them out of there. On massive scale, wildlife is bound to return to places that were once their natural habitats, marking new territories and steadily repopulating areas. A small-scale version of this is Chernobyl. When the area was turned into a no-man's land, after the devastating meltdown of its nuclear power plant, wildlife, and even vegetation returned to the region, along with the return of dogs, birds, and other forms of wildlife. Number 2. Rise of the deserts. Humans have a knack for finding places that would typically be uninhabitable, but through sheer will and ingenuity, we can make the harshest of places inhabitable. This includes deserts. When we're all gone, the cities we have built in desert lands such as Las Vegas and Dubai will be devoured by sand and turned back into their state as a desert. These cities will be nothing more than just dry landscapes against the blazing backdrop of the sun. Even massive areas in the Western Hemisphere, such as Mexico and California, will turn back to the parched landscapes they used to be, as homes and buildings begin to deteriorate, and the heat from the sun dries up the land once more. Number 1. Water world. At the height of mankind's expansion of territories, and the great discoveries of new lands, we have paved ways to new regions by building dams and forcing the water out of places where it should be. Delta cities, man-made islands, and places where water has been diverted to create a hospitable place to create habitat, will be swept away by the very same element we have tried to command. When no one is around for maintenance, the dam walls, no matter how thick and fortified, will break and release tons and tons of water. When that happens, many areas will be sunk in the water, turning them back into the rivers and swamplands that they used to be. Well, that's it for today. Do you know of any other possible outcomes when man totally disappears from the face of the earth? Let us know in the comments below. As always, thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please share, like, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to turn on the notification button to receive our new content. See you in the next one. Till then, stay safe.